to the fair were the 2 big weeks, I think, for us as far as, getting ready for it, the anxiety, and I think more so with this one because it was the last fair. So, it was a strange feeling.
We go back between radio and television. We covered a lot of fairs, and yet this was the hardest one to do. It was the most important one probably, but the hardest one I think to do. The hardest one to prepare for because you had to make it look like you were having a good time, and you really weren't because you were hurting inside.
In recent years, of course, we were covering it, via TV and the TV cameras with the old Channel 10, and the preparation was. You know what the toughest part for us probably, in retrospect, when you look back at it, was deciding prior to the fair how were we going to cover this? Who were we going to talk to? There were basics that we knew. We were going to talk to the officials of the fair. We were going to talk to some of the leading exhibitors, some of the people connected, the concessionaires. But was there more that we could look for to try to bring out the flavor and the taste of the fair and kind of a nostalgic thing that we'll long remember? And I hope it worked out. At least we'll find out in a few minutes.
I think what we were looking for, too, is to talk to as many people who came to the fair for years and find out what their reaction was going to be. They even expressed some doubt that maybe it wasn't going to be the last fair, but it really was, and we all knew that it was going to be.
I think a lot of wishful thinking at the time that maybe, somehow the fair was going to be able to survive and not end that year. But I think you're right when you say, talk about people. There were so many traditional things with the fair that over the years, some of us may have taken them for granted, like the visitation of the veterans, for one. Music that was provided, like the Zimbrowski family, Victor and Sophie, Victor's brother and his nephew that carried on the tradition at the fair. And then there were so many other people that, it was a matter of fact each year, and we covered it as such. But trying to get the diversity of that last year was, I think, the toughest.
Do you sense an aroma of onions and sausage and stuff? You can almost sense it in the air.
Yeah. Fair Week especially, right? Yeah. Of course, what Paul is referring to is the food stands, the concessionaires, run by Danburyans for the most part. Yeah. And it was just like I used to call it, sausage and meatball alley when you walk down where all of the food was in the food stands. Oh, some of the greatest.
I hope that people realized what a great contribution John Leahy made by bringing the attractions here, by having C. Irving Jarvis work with him. But John actually traveled all over the country, as did Irving Jarvis, to bring those attractions here. Then, of course, Fred Fern and Jack Stetson, from whom they're going to hear a little bit later on, and sort of introducing the whole thing. But there were a lot of people who put the thing on. Arlene Yapel. John had a very loyal staff, and I suppose their staff made it easier for us to do what we had to do, but it sure hurt. That last one was tough.
Yeah, when you mentioned the name C. Irving Jarvis, Irv, he was a carny. He was involved with exhibitions and shows and carnivals for many, many years. And, of course, his job was with John to bring in a lot of the new, wherever they found something new, they brought it in. And we're going to see a lot of this as we go with the next couple of minutes. So.
Since Abe already said we're going to be seeing it, why don't we take a look at it? Because Jack Stetson is coming forth to deliver the first part of what you're going to be seeing for the next few minutes. Nostalgic minutes, we hope. Here's Jack.
We're going to do our traditional fair, and there's a great many shows here for people to see and all the attractions, and that's the way it is, It's a tradition. It's going to be done in a traditional sense.
The Zinzers have been here for 50 years. How did it all start?
Well, my father started out with the days years and years ago when he just set them up on little pieces of wood and used milk bottles from the Hatch Dairy. And then after I got out of the service and went into the greenhouse, then we started little by little putting in greenhouse. Then we had the 2 stands, one days and one greenhouse.
And how did you remember your first trip over here, your first visit?
What do you mean?
As an exhibitor, your own
exhibitor? About 40 years ago.
Has it changed much for you?
Yes, it's changed quite a bit. I mean, I can remember we used to walk around. There wasn't the hard surface roads. On a rainy day, you'd be in mud up to your knees. And then they'd put sawdust out. And there's different stands. I mean, in the big top, they've put up nice tables now compared to what we had. You'd have to come over and patch up your own table. I mean, there'd be holes in it. And like that.
Are you sad?
Yes, in a way, but in another way, it's a hard week. It's a very hard week. But we've met a lot of friends, and we've seen a lot pass away. Now, like this past January, my father passed away. We were hoping that he could have seen it, and we would have had 4 generations of Zinzers this year, and this to wind up our 50th year.
How long have you been running one of the concessions at the Danbury Fair?
Well, I've been playing the Danbury Fair 22 years, and I do come up from Boston to play the fairgrounds each and every year, and I'm sorry to see this going right here, right now.
What do you think about the crowds from Danbury and the kind of people who come to the fair?
Well, I think the people that come to the fair, it's a tradition. They've been coming here for years, and, you know, there's a lot of us that are sorry to see it go.
How do you compare this to other fairs that you've worked in your time?
Well, I can't compare this to any other fair. We're just all sad that it's going.
That's number 1. Over here. Over here. Oh, Jerry, wait. Now, wait a minute. Come here. Whoa. Come here. Oh, Jerry, wait a minute. Drive up, Bob. Drive right on that. Come here, Jerry. Come up here. Come up here. Whoa. Okay, all the way. First buffalo gal, go around the outside, around the outside, around the outside. First buffalo gal, go around the outside. Do-si-do your partners, do-si-do your corners all. Swing your honey, one and all. Take your honey in your arms and promenade the hall. Promenade! Buffalo gals go around the outside, around the outside, around the outside. 2 buffalo gals go around the outside and do-si-do your partners, do-si-do your corners all. Swing your honey, one and all. Take your honeys in your arms and promenade the hall. Promenade! Buffalo gals go around the outside, around the outside, around the outside. 3 buffalo gals go around the outside. Do-si-do your partners, do-si-do your corners all. Swing your honey, one and all. Take your honeys in your arms and promenade the hall. Promenade!
And the Zimbrowskis have been performing with the Danbury Fair for a long time. You're one of the latest.
Oh, yes, I am. It started with my Uncle Victor. And my Aunt Sophie still has the shows. She carries 3 stations, radio stations. And my father, Felix Zimbrowski, took over when my uncle got ill. And my father passed away, and I took over. It's the first year I have the band.
This is the first year you have the band. It's possibly the last year of the fair. What do you think about that?
Well, it's the reason I have the armband on today. I see you have one also. It's too bad. It's just something taken away from the people, and it's people all enjoy. You can tell by the crowd here today.
Have you been warmly received throughout your appearance here?
Oh yes, oh yes. Matter of fact, we have a hard time stopping sometimes at night. They have to get everybody out, and everybody's having a good time dancing and everything.
Bring in the vets from the Veterans Hospital from Rocky Hill and West Haven Hospital. We take them at the fair, and we treat them. Refreshments be served here. We take them our annual visit to show the fair every year.
About how long has this been going on now?
47 years.
The Veterans of Foreign Wars are honored to be down here in the Danbury Fair to take the veterans and host them today to all the activities in the fair in Danbury. We hope it's not the last fair, but they tell us it is. And Post 149 in Danbury is the host to the veterans here in Danbury.
Do any other posts do similar things for the veteran members?
Yes, they do, but Danbury Post has been doing this for many, many years, and they do an outstanding job for the veteran in this area.
Have other veterans let you know that this is a thing that is anticipated?
Yes, it's well received. The veterans here, there's 2 or 3 buses that come from the area here, and this post here has been hosting this for many, many years, and they take the veteran and host them here at the post and at the fair.
Their main events is they just like to see the fair, get out amongst the people. Some of them will be in wheelchairs. We go over there and watch them to make sure that they get around all right, and this is what most of the fellas are here for today. They come in from department. I'm district. I represent district. I'm district commander. I'm a past post commander, 149, and I've been involved in this now for about 9 years.
What seems to be the most popular event in the fair for the veterans?
The veterans hang around the main tent mostly. They like it up in that area because that's where most of the shows, and where the shows are, like the oxen pull and so forth. I usually wander around to see where they are, and that's where you'll find them. They go into the grandstand for that event, and they usually leave about 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon.
They always look forward to helping with this fair, a fair to come to Danbury with the veterans and go to the fair with them. And the veterans look forward to coming every year because it is one of their big events after being in the hospitals.
Do you know of any possible alternatives to the Danbury Fair now that it looks like this might be the last year?
Well, I just heard that it's supposed to be the last year, and I think it's really a shame because the veterans need somewhere to go and something to look forward to throughout the year, and they have looked forward to coming here every year, and they don't have this to look forward to. That's one joy out of their life.
Fern, president of the Great Danbury State Fair. Fred, what has been your reaction so far to the big opening weekend?
Well, Paul, the opening weekend was quite good. I mean, the first Saturday was, I think, 42,500 some odd. It was less than last year, but it was very, very windy and cold. Sunday, we had a record crowd as far as first Sunday goes, best one since 1973. We're about 5,000 people ahead of last year so far. If the weather holds and it comes out fine, we'll have a record year, I'm sure.
Fred, there seems to be a general air of happiness, but maybe with some sadness tucked in.
Well, everybody's very happy, they're having a good time, but we're not going to get sad till the last day. Then we're going to really be sad.
Okay. Fred Fern, president of the Great Danbury State Fair.
We'd like you to tell us about being Cinderella in the Danbury Fair, some of the things you found to be the most fun and enjoyable.
Well, the best part is when you get these little kids come up to you and they're like, wow, you're really Cinderella. You know, they read all about it in a storybook, and then they finally come to Cinderella Land, which is a whole big exhibit and has horses that supposedly were 6 mice until they were changed to ponies. So it's a lot of fun. You get a lot of little different expressions from little kids. Then you have the older men that have their comments too, but it's a lot of fun.
Is this the first Danbury Fair you've been to?
No, I've been Cinderella for the last 9 years. So I'm kind of sad to see it closing.
All right, there's no chance for magic to save the fair, huh?
Well, I have this wand here, and if it could do magic, that's what I'm hoping for.
The segments we've just seen bring back an awful lot of memories, and one in particular, Paul, was the one about the veterans. I remember that part of the fair each year, with the bus after bus after bus coming from the Veterans Hall up through Danbury, up Lake Avenue, and of course that was a part of the fair, I think, when we really had our work cut out for us, because there were so many things we could do with the interviews and the people we talked to, and it was a great nostalgic bit there.
It was nostalgic, because as kids in Ridgefield, we used to sit up in the trees and watch the buses go by, and that's when we were kids.
Yeah.
And years later, we were veterans looking at veterans. It shows you a war had intervened in the meantime, so that...
I used to live at the bottom of Lake Avenue, actually still on the end of West Street there, near the old El Dorado restaurant, and the buses used to come under that trestle, which we called the Lake Avenue trestle, although it was on West Street, and up the hill. I used to stand on the porch as a kid and watch those buses go by, one after the other, you know, with the vets. But there were a lot of segments in there that we did see, and a lot more to come up. And, you know, one of the things that I think a lot of us fail to see is the history of the fair, you know, from way back, the way it developed. We're going to see a lot of that in the segments coming up.
I can't help but refer to the role we played. Radio was a snap, because you could go any place.
Yeah.
But with the TV cameras, the places we had to try to set up, you never knew what was going to happen next. Of course, as I said, the monkey cage, people throwing peanuts at us. Alongside of Zimbruski's booth, you're trying to talk, and the Polish music is there, which made you feel like you wanted to dance instead of talk. You weren't too far from the dancing girls down at the Midway. The Midway music was always going on, and yet they're going to see a lot of the agricultural phase of the fair, and then later on the midget racing. Not only midget, auto racing in general.
So you talked about racing briefly. We're going to see a segment on that, on the midgets and the stock cars, of course, which had a great history, and you, of course, were the voice of stock car racing in Danbury for its entirety. But the one part of the racing was the sulkies and the harness racing. I'm trying to think of the years. I don't know if we mentioned that in the upcoming pieces, but I remember as a young kid, you know, standing near a tree in the corner watching those horses go by. So that had to be, I'm not going to say exactly when, it gives my age away, but...
At the same time, I know we're running out of time for this segment, but at the same time, Peter DePaulo and Ralph DePalma were the great names at Indianapolis, back when they were two-seated, two persons sitting in a car. And all the rest of the racing, which they're going to see, is fantastic. But, the greatest names that raced in this country raced in Danbury on the half-mile over. They used to go up behind where along the back rail now, but it became a 1/3 mile track almost overnight.
Not only are we witnessing the history of the fair in this final showing of the fair, but also there was a lot of other history that was part of the fair over the years, and we're going to see that coming up right now. Let's take a look.
It is, baby, you're my first, you're my last, you're my everything, and the reason for all my dreams, yes, yes. You're my sun, you're even my moon and my guiding star. My kind of wonderful, and that's what you are. Yes, baby, I know there's only one like you, honey. Because I also know something else they couldn't have made too, not of you. Yes, you're my reality, and I'm lost in a dream. You're my first, you're my last, you're my everything.
Danbury and its neighbors in the early 1800s were still primarily agricultural communities. The first fairs in Danbury were held as far back as 1821 on White Street, where Western Connecticut State University stands today. But the Danbury Fair as we know it began in 1869 at the Danbury Pleasure Park.
Combined with what had already been established that year as Pleasure Park, which was racehorses that were raised locally, and the two of them got together and formed the fair out at the fairgrounds that we remember out at Bacchus Avenue. By the turn of the century, they had the huge big top and the midways and the horse races, and by 1904 it was the automobile that was taking over, but they still had tremendous displays of flowers and farm produce and animals and horse pulls and oxen pulls and this sort of thing, which continued with the fair. In Fairfield County, it would have been the largest fair in the area. And they also had an automobile review where they would parade around the racetrack and show off the new cars. The car was a novelty. Churches still had their booths all along. They used to call it the church right-of-way because each one of the area churches had a food center where they served everything from hot dogs and sauerkraut to Swedish meatballs and all kinds of things.
I enjoyed everything about the fair, especially I like the big top.
We enjoyed it very much. We thought it was just fantastic.
Well, I liked all of it. We really enjoyed it.
Did you have a good time?
I enjoyed the whole thing. The animals and the vegetables.
They used to have the harness racing.
It was like a little vacation for us.
Hamburgers and hot dogs and that type of thing.
We think it's just great.
It was really nice. I enjoyed it very much.
Oh, we on the rides. I had a good time with my grandchildren, my daughter.
So I loved the horses, you know.
We were little then.
There'd be cakes, pies, jellies, all that.
Everything was beautiful. I'm sorry the whole thing didn't continue on.
It's hard to say from year to year exactly how much it changed, but it has improved. I know they put in more features.
And every year we went to the fair and we spent most of our time in the grandstand watching the performance.
I like the big top, the big tent with all these vegetables and everything.
When the big top, it was tremendous. I mean, you could start in the big top. At one end, they'd give you out a shopping bag, and you could walk around the whole inside of the big top. By the time you got back, you had the shopping bag filled, and it didn't cost you anything. There was places you get free pancakes and things like that, free cocoa.
We used to go up to the grandstand, you know, and they'd go through the big tent, and I liked the races, the heads, you know. It was really nice. I enjoyed it very much, and we used to go around the fair.
My wife and I enjoy going around and seeing everything we possibly can. So it's just been great.
Everything was beautiful. Everything. I had no complaint.
The shows were great. The Dutch area was great. And the stadium fair, the stadium show with the band and the shows they put on, we thought that was just great. Oh, yeah. You sure got your money's way.
Woo! Over here. Oh, Jerry, wait now. Wait a minute. Come here. Jerry, wait a minute. Drive up, Bob. Drive right on that. Come here, Jerry. Come up here. Come up here. Whoa! Okay, all the way.
First buffalo gal, go around the outside, around the outside, around the outside. First buffalo gal, go around the outside. Do-si-do your partners, do-si-do your corners. All swing your honey, one and all. Take your honey in your arms and promenade the hall. Promenade! Buffalo gals go around the outside, around the outside, around the outside. Two buffalo gals go around the outside and do-si-do your partners, do-si-do your corners. All swing your honey, one and all. Take your honeys in your arms and promenade the hall. Promenade! buffalo gals go around the outside, around the outside, around the outside. 3 buffalo gals go around the outside. Do-si-do your partners, do-si-do your corners all. Swing your honey, one and all. Take your honeys in your arms and promenade the hall. Promenade.
How you gonna keep them away from harm? That's the mystery. They'll never want to see a rake or plow. And who's a deuce and parlez-vous a cow? How you gonna keep them down on the farm after this scene
Since its origins in 1869, racing has always been a part of the Danbury Fair.
These are the trotters that were featured regularly during Fair Week. And you and I am sure as youngsters remember the trotting races, which were so exciting. Here you get another picture off of the card of the old trotting races. This was an exhibition of old cars, but then came the motorcycle races and the automobile races, and the great names of Ralph De Palma, Peter De Paolo, who later became head of Indianapolis Raceway. And then, of course, so many other greats appeared in Danbury. In addition, Barney Oldfield ran in Danbury. Ira Vale ran here in the old big cars, and I'm sure most of you who are older than I, or as old as I remember, Ira Vale of Manhasset, New York, who competed here in Danbury. They were to precede the great names of the midget auto racing world, who from Danbury went on to great fame all across the country. But the greatest names among the big cars were all here in Danbury, the old half-mile track, which extended up to the pit area. Lucky Teeter, as we said earlier, competing and performing here in Danbury. The Crash of Fire, the Lucky Teeter held drivers in front of the old grandstand. These are the greatest names of the midget auto racing you're seeing here. Bill Schindler and Dutch Schaefer and Bill Holmes and Ted Tappet, Georgie Rice. There you see Bill Schindler in the Caruso Deuce and Dutch Schaefer in the Golden Arrow 6. Perhaps the most popular driver ever to compete in Danbury in the midget competition. There you see them, the two greats, Dutch Schaefer and one-legged Bill Schindler.
I started on the track crew when they had midgets here, yeah. Dad was here before me. He asked me as a young boy if I'd like to work on the track crew, and I said, sure, I'd do it for nothing even. Yeah. But then we went to the midgets, and then we had a year with the boats, and then started with Southern New York.
We ran 2 seasons in Brewster, and John Leahy heard that there was a racetrack over there and a club that was running cars, so he approached us and asked us if we'd like to run it during the fair in 1951. And we thought that would be a real good thing, so we did. And we were invited along with United, who were running at that time in Middletown, New York, which was dirt. And of course, all the tracks at that time, or most of them around, were dirt. The midgets were running a combination show with us, and the track being dirt and always a problem with the holes and the rough surface and everything. Dutch just decided that it was, wasn't something that they wanted to contend with, so he talked with John, and I guess they decided that they wanted to blacktop or asphalt the track, and it was a thing that took, it was 1 week it was dirt, and the next week it was asphalt.
Many of you perhaps sat through the dust that took place following the dirt track races, or during the dirt track races that you're seeing here. The early days of the Southern New York Racing Association competing on the old dirt track. And as Ed said, they did in 1 week surface the track at the suggestion of Dutch Schaefer. John Leahy said, come back in a week, folks, and they did, and it was all surfaced. But many of the drivers, Maury Waters, Freddie Fichet, dominated and loved dirt more so than the hard surfaced track. Look at the size of the field on the old track. The dirt allowed for a greater field. Now you see the transition to the cars that ran in the last year of racing. The tremendous power that was being generated on the 1/3 mile speedway by the drivers, the more recent vintage, the LaJoys and the Stockwells and the Funks and the Spadas, who competed here through the year 1981, the last year of stock car racing in Danbury.
This racing plant, this fairgrounds, is most unique than anything around. The racing itself program has been very, very good, nothing like it anywhere else. The combination of the Southern New York Racing Association and Danbury Fair have been great, and it's provided a great entertainment for the people.
Hi there, Tex, what you say? Step
step aside, partner, it's my day. Bend an ear and listen to my version of a really solid Tennessee excursion. Pardon me, boy, is that the Chattanooga choo-choo? Yes, yes. Track 29. Boy, you can give me a shine. Can you afford to board Chattanooga choo-choo? I got my fare and just a trifle to spare. You leave the Pennsylvania station about 3:45. Read a magazine and then you're in Baltimore.
Dinner in the diner, nothing could be finer than to have your ham and eggs in Carolina.
When you hear the whistle blowing 8 to the bar, then you know that Tennessee is not very far.
Shovel all a calling, gotta keep it rolling. Woo-hoo, Chattanooga, there you are.
There's gonna be a certain party at the station.
Satin and lace.
I used to call Funny Face. She's gonna cry until I tell her that I'll never roll.
So Chattanooga choo-choo,
won't you choo-choo me home?
Chattanooga, Chattanooga,
all aboard.
Chattanooga, Chattanooga,
Get aboard.
Chattanooga, Chattanooga, Chattanooga choo-choo,
won't you choo-choo me home?
Chattanooga choo-choo.
Acquiring his first share of stock in the Danbury Agricultural Society from a woman customer who could not pay her fuel oil bill, John Leahy developed the Danbury Fair into one of the nation's most beloved fairgrounds.
John took great pride in the additions he brought to the fairgrounds, the attractions that he brought. And as I'm sure many of you noted in the past, when he added tons of blacktop and gravel so that the pedestrians walking through the fairgrounds would not have to walk in mud. Here you see an area which was blacktop, the driveway, and that's C. Irving Jarvis with John W. Leahy. The two of them brought so many new attractions, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police at the Clydesdales, the great attractions in the Big Top, and the great attractions over in front of the grandstand. The fair became known as the cleanest fair in the United States, and that's what John Leahy set out to do. He got rid of those attractions which were poor attractions and instead put in better attractions. The eating places which were not up to par, they changed and brought in better eating places and a greater variety of eating places. He brought many new additions to the fairgrounds. Here you see them waving from the Union Pacific train. There you see John Leahy, the man who will be remembered forever as the man who brought to Danbury the greatest attraction it's ever known.
Most of these figurines that you see around here are from other fairs, from World's Fairs, that he went to and bought up after they closed, just to make the Danbury Fairgrounds more beautiful.
Irving Jarvis and John, they used to go around to all different fairs all over, every year and all during the year. And he acquired a lot like that. Then they had certain people that made them.
He did improve the fair and make it a very attractive place for everybody who want to go and see.
It seems so each year he'd take on a new project, and that's what they complete, like New England Village and the Dutch Village.
He was a mainstay of the whole thing.
We were privileged to be a part of the dedication of the Leahy Monument given by the concessionaires and the members of the Southern New York Racing Association in memory of the great man who had done so much for the fair. They wanted to be a part of it. There you see the sculpture that's now down at the Scott Phantom Museum, but it was given by the concessionaires and members of the Southern New York Racing Association in the memory of this man, John W. Leahy. That ceremony that you just saw with the monument being dedicated was done by the concessionaires and the exhibitors who all got together. They enrolled almost the entire support of everybody who was there to honor John W. Leahy for what he had done for them and for the great Danbury State Fair. And it was quite an occasion. I know that John Leahy, who was not easily overcome was that day impressed with the ceremony and the dedication of the monument in his memory.
Yeah, that was a very touching part of you know, the fair, and you know, it's kind of strange to look back at the fair and look at some of these segments that, you know, we shot, how many, 17, 18 years ago, and it brings back to mind of some of the things that, you know, to this point in this program, we've forgotten to mention, like the Midway and the carnival atmosphere. We talked about it briefly, but the rides, the games, you know, the fair was so much, you know, than just one or two or three or four things. And thanks again to John W. Leahy and his staff.
And you know, we're going to be seeing and hearing Governor O'Neill. You realize how many governors we saw come and go at the Danbury Fair, including O'Neill, Dempsey. I don't know if Grasso ever made it here or not.
Ribicoff.
Then we saw congressmen, mayors.
Yeah. Struck up a good friendship with a couple of the governors. You know, we were very fortunate in that respect, and you know, in that we had the opportunity to talk to our state officials, and of course the local mayors on Danbury Day. Every day was a typical day at the fair. You know, there was Danbury Day where the school kids were let out.
Veterans Day.
Veterans Day, Danbury Day. Governor's Day was a Wednesday with the Rotary Club hosting the governor each year. There was just so much. You know, we talk about the parts of the fair that are different, you know, and you don't think of them when you see them on tape now, and it brings back a lot of memories of the coordination it took to put that fair together and to run these things on a daily basis. That had to be a mammoth task.
Always on schedule, because when the parade started, it always had to come down in front of the grandstand so that either Mr. Leahy in his time, or Fred Fern, or Jack, whoever it was, would get out and address, or the governors would address the throng in the grandstand. But
there's a segment coming up too where we talked to a lot of the Danburyans, people that we knew primarily, to get their comments about the fair, and there's a good a montage of that coming up. And you know, when you talk about taking equipment, TV equipment primarily, and shooting, you know, segments of the fair, we even had our crew, and boy, we had a really devoted crew of guys who did, you know, went out of the way to get some good video shots. They went up in a plane. We've got some aerial shots that we're going to be taking a look at the fair, not at the fair, but from above the fair.
That's the one place I did not take a shot from. For me to be taking shots, it would have to be a 747.
Yeah, right.
Anything smaller than that, I'm not looking at the fair. As a matter of fact, I wasn't too happy coming into Kennedy from England. But no, they were great aerial shots. But you know, you and I we were not in the planes taking those shots.
Yeah. Remember the shows in the grandstand? I think we see a part of that coming up shortly too. Of the bareback riding, you know, the trick horses and stuff. There again, you see that at a circus, you know, a small circus somewhere. But here it was just a little part, or one part, of the great Danbury State Fair. There were so many things put together on here. What was your favorite part of the fair?
Well, I guess if I had to pick one thing, I think racing. The years that it was part of the fair, and also the fact that I was so many years a part of the racing at the race arena. But I guess the one thing which stands out is the fact that my kids got a chance to see the fair before it died.
Yeah. You know, I figured you were going to say racing and stock car racing, and I can appreciate the point about, you know, your youngsters being able to have seen the fair too. But from my standpoint, the best part of the fair was the food. I just enjoyed those grinders and sandwiches. And I had one booth I used to go to all the time, and they used to make the greatest combination grinder you ever saw. You know, another thing that struck my mind was the additions to the fair. We talked earlier about things happening, you know, improvements, et cetera, et cetera. Dutch Village. We're going to be seeing that. That was the last big major project.
Abe, as I remember the story, John Leahy was supposed to have hired someone from Holland to supervise the construction of Dutch Village, brick by brick, door by door, window by window, so it would be an exact duplicate of everything that you saw there. So when you saw Dutch Village at the fairgrounds, you were seeing an actual Dutch Village. Right. And supposedly, at that time, John spent over $3 million to bring that attraction to the fairs. Yeah. Just another typical John Leahy venture to bring something else, something special to the great Danbury Fair.
After 112 successful years, the Great Danbury State Fair took its final bow in October of 1981.
Well, come along, boys, and listen to my tale, and I'll tell you of my troubles on the old Chisholm Trail. Come a tie-yippee-yi, yippee-yi-yi, tie-yippee-yi, yippee-yi. I started up the trail October 23rd. I'm going to Texas with the two you heard. Come a tie-yippee-yi, yippee-yi-yi, tie-yippee-yi, yippee-yi. Woke up one morning on the old Chisholm Trail with my rope in my hand and a cow by the tail. Come a tie-yippee-yi, yippee-yi-yi, tie-yippee-yi, yippee-yi. In the morning, the 4-day light. Before I sleep, the moon shines bright. Come a tie-yippee-yi, yippee-yi-yi, tie-yippee-yi, yippee-yi. Now old Ben Bolt was a blame good boss, but he go to see the gals on a sawback horse. Come a tie-yippee-yi, yippee-yi, yippee-yi, tie-yippee-yi, yippee-yi. It's bacon and beans most every day, and soon be eating the prairie hay. Come a tie-yippee-yi, yippee-yi, yippee-yi, tie-yippee-yi, yippee-yi. It's bacon and beans most every day. I'd sons be eating old prairie hay. Come a tie-yippee-yi, yippee-yi, yippee-yi, tie-yippee-yi. It's cloudy in the west and a-looking like rain, and the darned old slicker's in the wagon again. Come a tie-yippee-yi, yippee-yi, tie-yippee-yi, yippee-yi. I went to the boss for to draw my roll, and he had it figured $9 in the hole. Come a tie-yippee-yi, yippee-yi, yippee-yi, tie-yippee-yi, yippee-yi. Well, I'll sell my outfit as fast as I can. I won't punch cattle for no darn man. Come a tie-yippee-yi, yippee-yi, yippee-yi, tie-yi, yippee-yi. Town to draw my money, I'm going back home to see my honey. Come a tie-yippee-yi, yippee-yi, yippee-yi, tie-yippee-yi, yippee-yi. With my knees in the saddle and my seed in the sky, I'll quit punching cattle in the sweet by and by with a tie-yippee-yi, yippee-yi, tie-yi, yippee-yi.
Well, in this particular year, it's obviously going to be a poignant occasion in that it's the last Danbury Day that will occur at the Danbury Fair because of the owners selling the fair. But the schools are all out. The students will attend. City Hall closes at noon. It's really the recognition that the Danbury Fair has been part of Danbury. And we all pause and permit citizens and students the opportunity to go over and see fellow Danburians.
Thank you, Wendell. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the 112th Great Danbury State Fair. We have a great show, many more outside. We want to please you. Come back again tomorrow and see what you missed today. Here's Jack. Mayor of the city of Danbury, we are okay to be tired. Good afternoon. And welcome to Danbury Day at the Danbury Fair. In some ways, those clouds in the sky reflect some of our feelings, because this will be the last Danbury Day. But we know one thing for sure: the fine work that the people of the Danbury Fair, Jack Stetson, Fred Ford, have done over the years, and John Leahy, will always live as a bright spot in our hearts. I think they deserve a fine round of applause. We have with us also this afternoon the United States Representative Will Rackford. Let's have a few words from Congressman Rackford.
I can recall every year when the league started to turn and the next game of the year, the feeling that it was Danbury Fair time. Jack, Fred, members of the fair, you're part of our fond memories. It's a lot like New Year's, sadness and joy. We'll sing tonight, all night tonight. Thank you so much. Thanks so very much to all of us in Danbury. Thank you.
and what do you wish? The old moon asked the three. Well, we're going out fishing for herring fish that live in the beautiful sea. Nets of silver and gold have we set, winking and blinking and nod. The old moon laughed and sang a song as they rocked in their wooden shoe, and the wind that sped them all night long ruffled the waves of dew. Well, the little stars were the heron fish that lived in the beautiful sea. Now cast your nets wherever you wish, never afeard are we. So sang the stars to the fishermen three, winking and blinking and nod. All night long their nets they threw to the stars in the twinkle and foam. Then down from the skies came the wooden shoe, bringing the fishermen home. 'Twas all so pretty a sight, it seemed as if it could not be. And some folks thought 'twas a dream, they dreamed of sailing the beautiful sea. But I shall name you the fishermen three, winking and blinking and nod. Now winking and a-blinking are two little eyes, and nod is a little head, and the wooden shoe that sailed the skies is a wee one's trundle bed. So close your eyes while mother sings of the beautiful sights that be, and you will see the wonderful things as you rock in your misty sea, where the old moon rocked the fishermen three, winking and blinking and nod.
Children, and the young at heart, have always loved the excitement and romance of the great Danbury State Fair. Hundreds of thousands of fairgoers flocked to Danbury each year on foot, on horseback, in wagons, by car, and by bus. The fair is for many a tradition whose memory continues to live. For over 100 years, the Great Fair was Danbury's showplace, her pride and joy, and as much a part of October as the turning leaves and cool, crisp air of autumn.
Again. Today it's working out much better. It's a lot warmer, not as windy as it was, not as bumpy as it was, so we really anticipate a fairly decent load.
There was a lot of concern that there were to be no air traffic controllers for the fair. The mayor and the congressman managed to get 3 controllers working on and off. Would it have been any danger flying without the controllers here?
Well, I think it would have been a lot of danger, actually, because a lot of people come into the fair, and you get, especially on the weekends, you're going to get maybe 40, 50, or 60 airplanes coming in here at the same time.
Why do you think the controllers were necessary for the fair?
Well, obviously there was a heavy volume of traffic here during the time of the fair than there would have been otherwise, and the control tower always provides the type of service to pilots that makes an operation safer than it would be otherwise.
Or other than the increased volume of traffic because of the fair, what other challenges were there in servicing the tower during Fair Week?
Well, I think we all enjoyed the experience of working here for the 10 days. I have worked here for almost 6 years as a regular assignment, and it was nice to come back again and work it again. We have a rapport with the local pilots on the field, and it was a very enjoyable experience. So I'm glad we came back for the 10 days.
Can you tell us a little bit about the helicopter and the company and the rides?
Okay, the company is Connecticut Helicopter Service. We've been operating on the airport here for about 9 years now, and this is the 9th year we've been doing the fair, my 2nd year. The helicopter is a Bell 47. This one was built in 1963. It's a Bell 47G. And it's just been completely redone. It's like a brand new helicopter. On the weekend, we'll have 2 helicopters here. We'll also have a Bell Jet Ranger. It's a 4-passenger helicopter.
Is this a very popular ride?
Very popular. So it seems that our lines are the longest as far as the airplanes and helicopter rides. A lot of people want to go up in the helicopter and just get a first-hand look at the fair and the traffic that they were just caught in.
How do you deal with people who might be a little frightened to go up?
A lot of people are frightened usually until we pick up to a hover. Then all fear just leaves them, and a big smile comes on their face, and when they come down, it's just a thank you, and it's been the greatest thing, and I'd love to do it again. We've never had anybody really complain about the ride.
Okay, what we have is we're doing a little TV stuff here. We're going to follow the steerman on takeoff and fly with him around the fair and then grab some photos around the fair. We'll stay clear.
Life is so good. Life is so good these days. Life is so good these days. Life is so good. Life is so good. Life is so good these days. Life is so good these days. Life is so good. Life is so good. Life is so good these days. Life is so good these days. Life is so good. My life is so good. My life is so good these days. Life is so good these days. Life is so good.
As we look back over what you have seen and what we have experienced with the Danbury Fair, I know Abe feels the same as I do. It was an awful lot of fun doing the broadcasts, first on radio and then on television, and the things that we saw, the people we met. Few broadcasts I'm sure that we have done, at least for me, and I think probably for you, few broadcasts have ever been as difficult as to see something as popular, something that drew thousands and thousands of people every single year come to an end. Nostalgia is a tough thing sometimes, but I love it. I wish it was still here.
You know, it just struck me when you said that. I started to think back, you know, while you were just talking about the fair, and I pictured things that we're doing. The people that we worked with too at the fair, like you know, one name I think we'd be remiss if we didn't mention it yet, and she did broadcast constantly with Virginia Wren. Yeah. Virginia Wren had a show from the fair on radio for years, and she did some shows for us too when we had Channel 10, and all of the, to mention all of the crew that worked for us, we're liable to forget names, but boy, do all of them, if any of them are looking in, our thanks for helping to bring back these memories.
You mentioned Virginia Wren. We became very friendly with a guy who was there every year that we were there, Wendell Cook and his band.
Oh, yes,
Wendell Cook stayed over here on Homestead Avenue with the whole group. Wendell Cook is there, Al Brundage. Hal Brundage, his father before him, the Zembruskis and
Arlene Yapel, you mentioned her name
Arlene
before.
Yapel, Stella Donnelly, who appeared at the Pepsi Hall and sang so beautifully. And of course the guys from the races. I always bring up the racing portion of it, but the memories that it provided were just fantastic. And the vantage point, we broadcast from alongside the stage where the dances took place. We broadcast from the cage. We broadcast from an open booth outside. Rain or shine, we were there.
Well, of course, in the rain, we always went to the big top.
It didn't rain, but you know, when you think of all the years that we were there and all the days, there weren't too many rainy days. I remember one rainy Sunday. We didn't broadcast on Sundays as a rule. But the line of cars, and then of course 84 came in after the fair started. I mean, after we started. And remember how the cars, the buses that were parked, the traffic jams that were created all around Danbury. Every road leading to Danbury was jammed with thousands and thousands of cars. People were parking on lawns, they parked on roads, they parked wherever they could squeeze a car in.
Well, even the guys that used to park the cars, we became friendly with. They used to save us spots so we could park our vehicles with the equipment.
Yeah. Oh, Mr. Blackwell, Mr. Morris, two more guys that...
You know what, to put this into a little perspective, how lucky you and I are in the sense, and there's several like us, in that we're from this area. We grew up with the fair, and I start thinking back when I was a kid, you know, and I lived not too far from the fair, just down at the bottom of Lake Avenue on the hill, and we used to, you know, walk over and sneak into the fair when we were kids. And here, how lucky we were when we were working. We got in for nothing. We did shows. We talked to people. Just great.
They had John Leahy's tickets used to say so much, and babes in arms free.
Yeah.
And one guy's walking in with his girlfriend in his arms, babes in arms free.
Yeah.
But you know, I had one line that I think we used on some of the programs that we did. I know I used it at the last program that we ever did over there, the last TV show. And they always called it the happiest fairgrounds in the world. And I said, Danbury Fair, the happiest fairgrounds in the world, but not tonight, or not today. Those were it really was an awfully, awfully sad occasion. It provided a lot of happiness, a lot of entertainment, a lot of great moments for millions of people over the years.
We want to thank a lot of people who helped us at the time to produce, you know, this thing, and we want to thank all of the people out there who watched tonight and joined us in remembering the great Danbury State
Let me
Fair.
say quick to Abe, we got to remember Mike Prunick, who was a salesman at LAD, who also contributed so much to our broadcasts at the fair.
Yeah.
Thank you, people.
The end has come, my heart is numb, 'twas like a bolt from the blue above. I can't believe it, but you're gone, darling, and here lies love. The sky is dark, I hear a lark, he sounds as sad as a mournful dove. The dew appears like the tears of dawn.